Hey guys, Luke C here with TFB and TFB TV. Oh God, see, like I screwed it up already. I always do that. Okay, you
You're
guys
good.
can leave that part in. Hey guys, Luke C here with TFB and TFB TV. You're listening to the Carry Handle podcast.
Not
Where's
playing.
the music?
I don't know.
Where's
It's
the
not
music?
playing.
Look,
What
you
the
played
hell?
it so loud in my ear last time.
I know. It
Yeah,
did
you
it to
did.
me too. I kept trying to turn it down. You know what? We're keeping that in.
Fuck it, do it live.
Welcome back to the Carry Handle Podcast. My name is Bryce. As always, see, I fucked up the intro too. It's fine. As always, Kevin is with me. Hi, Kevin.
Kevin is here, Bryce.
Kevin, we have a guest. A new. We don't keep changing intro models. We just keep getting new guests. Hi, guest.
Hello.
Guest.
Good morning, or actually, no, it's good afternoon.
It
Good
is good afternoon.
Is it
Despite-
afternoon?
I don't know
or
what time.
morning?
I'm Pacific time, so it's definitely afternoon for me. It might still be morning for people in like Hawaii or Alaska, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yes, perhaps.
Yeah. I don't know where that. You know what? Either way. So we we've finally been able to get you our schedules to line up to have you on our podcast. We've been on your podcast a couple times.
You have.
As
I like
people
having
would
you guys
know.
on my podcast. It's
Yay.
you guys are a dynamic duo.
Well, thank you.
You're
Yeah,
that dynamic.
Dynamic is the word. I think we can rebrand now. That's what we'll add. That'll be to the clinical diagnosis. Dynamic. Nothing else.
No, the
Politically insane.
clinical diagnosis is autism, but
Yes. But of
Yes,
course.
But yeah.
So as our intro may have alluded to, TFB, you do gun things, right?
yeah, it's a little hard to describe exactly what I do, or even
Give
like.
me the elevator pitch.
Well, where do you guys want me to start? Because that's it's hard for me to describe. Like anytime people ask me what I do, it's hard to answer. If I want to like just boil it down and make it sound as generic as possible, I'm a
Yes.
content creator. But
Ooh, content.
yeah, which is dumb. I don't like that term. But I write for TFB and a couple of other organizations. I actually just became the associate editor of TTAG, or thetruthaboutguns.com, which is I never thought in a million years that would happen. But
That's awesome.
I contribute at TFB, thefirearmblog.com. I'm a presenter at TFB TV and TFB TV Showtime. I am a contributor to Falco Holsters blog. I do some work for them. I've written for Tyrant CNC.
Jeez.
I do a lot of like behind the scenes work at TFB as well. I do work for a lot of people. It really all started with TFB, actually, with James Reeves, actually, and TFB and TFB TV. So I've always just kind of like what I default to TFB when people ask me like who I work for, because technically I work for myself. I'm a contractor, but the easiest way to say it is I work for TFB. So that's where most people know me from, and that's really where I built my foundation. Like most of my like all of my foundational work, you know, like when I first got into the gun industry, like 6 years ago now that I'm thinking about it.
So what was the catalyst for that? I mean, were you in the gun industry and then you got to know James and then you got a job from there, or were you already writing?
Yeah, James Reeves is a very talented procurer of
Talent acquisition.
Yeah, talent acquisition. I think that's like
Nice.
something he's very good at. He recognizes very quickly when people have the correct combination of drive combined with the autism for the knowledge. That's probably more important for him to produce stuff like this. So
That seems to be a key feature in people that we talk to.
yeah, and it is. It's something I've noticed with like other people like who do this for a living. It's like they have an insatiable lust for those nitty gritty details and like, you know, how this part fits together and like, will this work with this? Or
Yeah.
like I
You
have
have
like an
to.
entire series on TFB that's entirely dedicated just to very like pedantically testing different types of 22 long rifle ammo out of one type of gun at a specific distance using one chronograph. And it's a 50 round test every time. It's very pedantic, but I think that's kind of like where he looks to get people involved. And I had been like competitively shooting since about 2011, USPSA and Steel Challenge. I started in Steel Challenge, so I had my footwork there. And in 2014, I started watching TFB TV the same year that they started doing SHOT Show coverage, because I was like, oh, that sounds like a cool gun show I'd like to go to. And then I learned it's basically like industry only. And so I was like, oh, I can't go. So I was satiated by watching the TFB TV videos before we even had TFB TV Showtime. And so for the next 5 years or so, I became like a member of, like, I subscribed to the channel. I would watch like gun reviews and stuff like that. And like they eventually opened up a Discord channel and I would chat to the people there. I became a moderator there just because I was always around. And then from there, just talking with James in our little moderator chat for a while, that's when he just like blindsided me one day. He was like, hey, I was at work actually when it happened. He messaged our little moderator chat. And he's like, hey, TFB needs someone to write daily news articles. Who wants to do it? And then he pinged me like 10 different times. And basically by the time I got off work and got to check my Discord messages, I had a job with TFB writing daily news articles.
That's awesome.
That's insane. That is the coolest thing.
Completely undeserved, in my opinion. Like I don't know shit, and I still don't know shit. But I think it's from there, it's become like way more than I could have ever imagined. Like I used to do it part time. Like it was just kind of like something I would do in the evenings, like just write. But I took on more, and eventually James just started giving me more work. Other people started giving me more work. Companies I would work with wanted me to do stuff for them. So it kind of just all grew from me just consistently turning in news articles, right? Like it's just industry news, just like really, it was like really easy stuff. That's where I started. And that's where most people start, I think, on the writer side, is that they're just doing news, right? They're cutting their teeth, showing their editors that they can distill the information in not just like an accurate way, but an intelligent way. Like, form some sort of opinion that's not like a boilerplate, like, well, here's a new 9mm handgun. It has DLC coding on it. Wow. It's $400. And it's like, yeah, okay. Everyone who read the press release knows that. But
exactly,
if you can provide insight into the history of why this gun might exist, or like what industry pressures that you've seen recently that are pushing a company to do a certain thing, or, it doesn't need to be anything profound. It just needs to be observational, because I think that's the value that we give to the people who consume our media.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I can definitely say so. I think we had discussed this previously, whether it was on air or not, but we were talking. I started reading your, I think it was 22 segments, before we had ever had a discourse or anything like that. And it's always really interesting when I meet somebody after I've read their art or their work or whatever it is that they do. How you write translates very fluidly to who you are. So it was cool, because I would read it and I'm like, I like this guy. This is cool.
I'm actually really happy you said that, because I worry about that sometimes. Like I don't like giving people the impression that I'm somehow I feel like my opinion is way more valid than yours, simply because I write for a publication, right? That's why I don't like to be overly formal, and I'll probably get hanged for this by other writers, but I really don't worry so much about like how my writing sounds to other people. If it sounds good to me, like if I'm talking to myself when I'm reading it or writing it down and it makes sense, and I'm like, of course I do go through and I check, like, to make sure, consistency wise, like internally, does the logic of what Luke just
P's
said
and Q's put down,
does it make sense? Yeah. But I don't worry about like, oh, well, did I word that in a way that is going to make someone feel good about themselves or feel good about their purchase, or like,
right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that, because I think it's disingenuous, and that's one of the more difficult parts of like the TFB TV side of things. Like Showtime is easy, like going to shows and talking to people, because I'm in my element there. I'm talking to a human being. I know I can be myself, but when I'm looking at a camera, like just me, like trying to put together like a review video, I have such a hard time like feeling like I'm an imposter, like when I'm speaking to the camera. Like So it's that's a more difficult side of things, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because I do try to come across like in the way I like. If you were to talk to me, I want people to like be able to watch what I produce and read what I produce and listen to what I produce.
Right.
And then if they do meet me at some point down the road, which has happened several times, I want them to be able to talk to the same person, because
Well,
I feel
that's-
that's probably
that's
incredibly
how I would
jarring
describe
for
it.
people who
Yeah.
meet someone from the gun industry, like say like a kid, you know, like a 14-year-old kid who's been like
Right.
watching, I don't know, whoever, and then they go meet him in person and he turns out like he's a jerk or something like that,
Yeah.
or like he's just really quiet.
Right. And it
Or
just
something
turns
like
him
that.
off.
Yeah, and it's like it kind of ruins it. You know, it's like why they always say like never meet your heroes, because I think in a vast majority of cases, like people who are good, like way better at this than I am, they're actors essentially, right? They put on a show.
Yeah, it's a
for people.
character.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just the person behind it may not be, and I think in a lot of cases isn't the same character. Which is, again, and I'm glad you guys said that about me, because that's something, again, why I've worked for TFB and TFB TV for so long, is because I have a lot of respect for James, because he is the same human being that I watched on YouTube for all those years before he hired me. And then I was so ecstatic to learn the first time I met him in person at SHOT Show. It was my first SHOT Show. The first time I met him in person, he's the exact same, like he's the same words, same tone, like he talks to you dismissively
Nice.
the same way he would across a YouTube video. So it's like
That's awesome.
It's reassuring. I just feel like there's a lot of, especially now that I've been in the industry for so long,
Right.
there's a lot of fake people out there, or liars, or people who are just not who they presented themselves to be.
Right.
And what just in the short time that Kevin and I have been doing this podcast, we've noticed that even with people that we've planned to have episodes or do things with, and then you start talking to them and you're like, whoa, it's a little different.
You're like, wait a minute, you're not.
It's very interesting. It's an interesting. You're right. It's characters. So it is really nice. If you, especially this goes to our viewers, if you guys hear us talking to somebody or we share their content, we're big fans. So that's how that works here. So
you guys are too nice to me. You guys are gonna give me an ego, and then you'll have to.
Yeah,
then
we're
there'll be some industry drama like 5 years down the road after I become.
Well, that's what we're doing here. Is we're really we're building it up. So there's a story. Remember, everybody's got a character. Got to keep it going.
Oh, we're making
5D chess. Right now. Yes, we're adding to the lore here, the deep cut lore.
Yeah, I appreciate.
What is that? What's that term they say? You either live long enough to become the villain or die a hero, or something like that. I forget. I totally butchered it. I know it's not. That's how
I think it's effectively that. So
I think it's it. Yeah.
The only thing before I get you on something more interesting than me talking, I am going to say that the one thing I will say that I get kind of nervous about is meeting people in person if they know me from online. Because as Kevin will attest, I'm a lot more comfortable online than I am in person, because I am not a person.
Yeah, no,
I attest.
I hate it.
Yeah, and I don't ever want that to come off as like I don't like. Well, I'm not really a people person, but I get nervous.
You want my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory about this? It's not really a conspiracy theory. It's
I already
observable.
have mine on. Go for it.
But I don't know what the age gap between me and you guys is, but I was
6 years maybe.
I was raised
7
in the 90s, and I grew up with the internet like basically in my house. My dad was in an industry where basically an internet connection had always been in my house from my earliest like memories of operating a computer. Like I had an email address from Juno when I was like 4 or 5 years old or something like that.
Nice.
Thank God.
So I think, with people like us who have grown up with the internet being in a constant factor in our lives, it's a lot easier. Like it's just the way we grew up communicating as a medium,
right?
Like a lot of kids grew up now, especially now, like most, we used to think it was such a crazy thing for a child to have a cell phone, but a lot of these kids are 12, 13 years old. They're
younger than that.
They have better friends than I do.
Not just like with like, I didn't have enough friends when I was 12 to weren't having a cell phone, but
yep.
But what I'm saying
would have
is,
to
like,
agree.
They have access now to like so many people, and they're used to communicating now or we're used to communicating now through mediums that aren't in person. So it's like really hard, I think, for a lot of us to just be like, oh, well, going to talk to this human being is only done one way. Now you can, there's an additional barrier between you and the people you have to talk to now. And again, it's probably a comfort thing, but that's why it's why going to trade shows is a good exercise for me. And, just mentally, like I have to like remember to be a decent human being and not say as many crazy things as like here. Yeah, it's fine. But
you can't let all the crazy all at once.
That's the thing. Usually I just want to let the floodgates open once I've established that, me and person are having a conversation, whoever it is. Yeah.
Person's like, they're still talking to me. Yes. Yes. All right.
Oh my God, they said hello to me. Okay, time to tell them everything.
Yeah, it's like that meme where, it's like I meet someone, I say whatever, they leave, and then, it's a constant cycle. I do worry, like, you do, that I will say something like out of hand. But that's just because I'm used to not filtering myself, and this has been, I think, one of the biggest liberating parts of this job is like, I don't work for I technically do in a lot of cases, but I don't work for a gigantic corporation.
Right.
My public image is not allowed to be bad, right? Because I have to use my name, but it's like, I don't have to worry about being, I don't have to like look good necessarily on LinkedIn. Like I'm ready to step into an office building.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to be like sterilized the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can give you a little story about like being weird. So I'm pretty weird as it is when I talk to people.
What? No. Really?
Yeah, really. And I don't remember doing this, but I was going home one day and one of the nurses stopped me. She's like, "Hey, I'm one of your patients you had like 3 weeks ago. You said may the force be with her." I was like, "Did I?" She mentioned you by name. I was like, "Oh, that's cool." She's like, "You're the only Kevin I know that would say may the force be with you to somebody randomly walk away." Like,
yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
That sounds like Kevin. So Luke, you talked about obviously trade shows. So and we led with SHOT Show. So before we talk about this year's SHOT Show, let's talk about real quick. How would you say from your first SHOT Show to now, what has changed in terms of how you feel like when you walk through the door and you're doing what you got to do? How does it feel?
Like, how do I feel?
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Do you enjoy, or are you just kind of like, another SHOT Show?
That's it's just like with anything else. Like the first time you go, it is an otherworldly experience, especially for someone like me who spent years like watching, like, oh, like, there's this person's at this booth and like those booths are so gigantic, and like I didn't realize. I think the biggest thing is the first year I underestimated just how absolutely gigantic the convention was, and this is before they added on Caesar's Forum. And it's funny because like a lot of old timers, and I get to call them that because I'm pushing 40 as it is. A lot of old timers out there will laugh at me for saying before the Caesar's Forum, because there's a time before I went to SHOT Show where SHOT Show was not even held in Las Vegas. It used to be held in like Florida. I think it was held in Texas one year. It used to be held in a couple of different places.
In Georgia once?
Yeah, I think so. I know it's been held in a couple of different states. It
didn't used to be Vegas. I know that.
Yeah, but for I think like the last decade, I think now or so, it's always been Vegas. But so the first year, I guess like it's like it's you're excited, and I was a writer back then, so I was just doing articles like to cover like new stuff, which was great because I was like, I get to see this stuff first. That's really the biggest reward for me. Is like stuff I keep track of on the internet. Like it was being able to go walk up to it and touch it and talk to someone who designed it and built it and get the information that I wanted for it. And then of course, like, it's I didn't realize it at the time, but like as the years went on, like, so you're asking like first year to, I guess this is year 6 now. Oh man, my first SHOT Show was 2020. So this is year 5. So 5 years, each year gets progressively less exciting on that front, right? Because your mind gets used to the dopamine hit that you get from seeing new gun. It's like neuron, that little meme, neuron activation when you see the gun. But eventually that pathway gets worn in so much to where like it doesn't even register. It's like, oh well, here's another, like I said before, here's another striker fired 9mm, or here's another
wow,
AR-15
it takes
with
Glock
a free float
mags.
handguard. Yeah, wow, it takes Glock mags. Wow, it's a
crazy
1911. And this year for me, it was like, wow, yeah, exactly. It was another 2011. Last year it was like, oh wow, it's another lever action. And I guess that kind of continued this year. And I hate saying it like that because I don't want to sound like I'm not interested in it anymore.
Yeah.
But you can only introduce me to the same thing so many times before I get tired, right? And like, I get it. Like, this is I think the industry is kind of like, there's a cap for like innovation, right? You can't invent something new every year and have 20 new releases. So I think
kind of just seems like they have to respin it because they need some like marketing kick to stay relevant.
Yeah. They just spin. I mean, like Glock and their finger grooves.
Well, yeah. See, you can get people on both sides of that argument who want those to come back. So
maybe they will.
I don't. I'm fine without the finger grooves. Like, but I think, yeah, there's examples like that where it's like a change where it's like, really, guys, this doesn't warrant like a huge like press release or whatever. But there's things that did come out like during the year that I think would have totally warranted like a SHOT Show launch, like Smith & Wesson's Bodyguard 2.0. I keep harping on about it nonstop. Like my own podcast, I've written about it. That gun is phenomenal, and I know it's.
Why did they drop it so weird?
I don't know. I think it was just like maybe they wanted to get it as soon as they had capacity for shipping it out. Maybe that's when that's just how the timing worked. And that was I want to say that was middle of last year.
Yeah.
So I don't think waiting 6 months, like you're missing 6 months of sales there just for a SHOT Show release. And I think that's what as the industry changed, and this is another thing that's changed. The way I look at the gun industry is entirely different now, and it's not at all in like a pessimistic way. It's more in like a kind of like, well, this is actually how things work, and not so much like, hey, we wanted to build this gun because so and so had a hit his head on the sink and came up with the flux capacitor for the pistol or whatever.
Interesting.
I hope you guys got that reference.
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. Because if you haven't seen Back to the Future, we have to end this podcast right now. You have to go watch it, and then we can come back and talk about that instead of guts.
That is the only reason I want a T100 first.
But
I want a T100 in the lift kit.
There we go. I do, to kind of sum it up, I do think like SHOT Show is still an exciting event, but the reasons for it change over the years. Like right now, I'm at a point in my career where I need more industry contacts than anything else. Like I need to find, and especially now that I'm an associate editor at T-Tech, I need to know people who can get me in contact with information and resources that I need to get to my writers or to myself so that I can do the coverage that, that I want to do. So it's every year, the like kind of like the background of it changes for me, but the goal every year is the same now. Since after my first year at SHOT Show in 2020, James once again yanked me from where my comfortable position as a writer and put me on the video team. So I started working for TFB TV. It was like my second SHOT Show, because the year after SHOT Show 2020 we had COVID, and that year TFB TV, instead of doing SHOT Show, we did our own thing called TFB TV Gun Fest, and we held that in New Orleans. And instead of us going to manufacturers at the SHOT Show, they came to us in New Orleans, and we just interviewed them there, which was kind of fun.
It's super cool. I really like that.
Yeah. So, but long story short, I know this is entirely rambling at this point, because I told you it's very confusing even for me, because of it's been a crazy kind of chain of events, how everything has happened.
I think anybody that's listening to this and wants to get into the industry, like me, I mean, doing what I'm doing now, being on you featuring my artwork and Kevin and our cartoon faces on the Firearm blog has been a lifelong dream. So to hear somebody who
now.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing, and that's the advice I try to give people who want to do this, because a lot of people will message me on Instagram, or they'll email me or something if they can get hold of my email. They'll be like, "Hey, I want to do this. Who do I talk to so I can do what you do?" And I was like, "Well, it doesn't really work like that." It's
right.
It's kind of like if you kind of just need to put in the legwork yourself. No one can really
Right.
do it for you. Like I got extremely lucky in that, like James, like I knew James, and James saw that I had, it's how he found Hop. Actually, if you want a better example of a more clear cut example, Hop didn't just like get put on TFB TV because he's Hop. He got put on our channel because he already had a very good channel on his own. Like he has a proven and recent track record pre TFB TV of putting together ideas on his own, like high production quality, like all that stuff, all independent, like all by himself. And that's why Hop got brought over. So
he just had a slightly higher voice initially.
Yeah. Well, that's because we hadn't punched him in the nuts.
Right.
So.
You needed to lower that octave a little bit.
Is that how you lowered the octave? I was wondering.
Well, it's actually the pitch has to go up before it goes down. It's a rubber banding effect.
Right.
So
that's what it is.
Before every video he shoots now, like we have a designated person who just, you've seen Idiocracy.
Yeah,
we could make an entire movie on Ow My Balls just based off of kicking Hop.
Nice.
For legal reasons, all that was a joke.
Of course.
Don't tempt me. But I think that's the message I try to get across to people like who want. Well, and that's that it's not all like everyone thinks that I make a ton of money, but I don't. I work extremely long hours that are all self-imposed.
Yeah, I don't know. I think typically, hopefully the people we're attracting are not the ones that want to be the celebrities, but want to be the nerds that tell other nerds it's okay to be a nerd.
Yeah, and I think that's part of
they're there.
That's part of that's part of the struggle. And I back to the SHOT Show thing. I think that's part of what I've noticed is that like the industry, and I hate I sound like a pessimist now. See now I'm self-doubting my own opinion and observations because I feel bad. But I do think the industry is suffering a little bit from overexposure.
I think that there are a lot of eyes, and I think it's become a lot more popular, and there's a lot more influencers now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The industry didn't draw the line hard enough between those two types of people because there's I'll take a quote from someone else who said it, but it's they're high opinion, low commitment people.
Yep. I like that.
Where they want they're like, hey, I have this box that lets me broadcast to millions of people. My opinion is just as valid as yours.
Right.
When they have no commitment to the industry or the practice or the art or of whatever it is they're doing,
or even knowing what they're talking about.
That's not to say that they're not allowed to have an opinion. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion, but opinions are going to be evaluated and distilled through the eye of public opinion. And the gun industry is one where you cannot pull the wool over on people's eyes, at least not for very long, because they will find out if you're fake. They will find out if you do not like. And I'm not trying to throw him under the bus or anything, but it just as an example, two good friends, my good friend, Mike Burns, bloke on the range, who actually, ironically enough, used to work for TFB and TFB TV before he got big and, committed to his own channel.
That's where I knew him from, was his writing.
And you take Mike Jones, Grantham, he put out a video on the L85, right? The very, very popular rifle, or not popular,
the Reload,
very infamous rifle. Yeah. And then he's like, there's no, so he's doing the thing. And it's any other subject I would have if this is something I looked at and I knew, and I've never touched an L85 before.
Yep.
But I knew, and that irked me so bad. And then Mike correctly called him out for it. And it just goes to show you that this in this industry, no matter who you are, you could be someone with 700 bajillion subscribers. If you say something wrong and you demonstrate that you did not put in your due diligence of research or form your opinion from fact, or at least a solid effort to find out. I mean, that's a pretty clear thing to miss. That's an integral part of a modern firearm. And
the bolt catch was it's not on the L85. It's by itself. There's nothing else around it. There's nothing to confuse what that would be. So, but even along that, it's so even along that same vein, there was a video. You know who GBRS is then? So
yeah, very aware.
They came out with, and so that was more for the audience at large and Kevin. So they're a very well-known training academy and or training organization and branding. They don't like bending their necks down, and they don't like cheek risers, but then they have cheek risers. But the other thing is when the thing came out with Mike and the not understanding how to reload an L85 is the thing where the GBR guy was like, well, the safety on the AK doesn't seem to work. And he was like trying to use the AK, and then it was like in the same vein of Bloke on the Range. It was a flip to somebody using their middle finger to swipe it down. And they're like, what are you talking about? So it's like these guys are, their whole deal is high speed, low drag. I don't know anything about, I don't invest a lot of information, but I just remembered that video. And it's like, well, these guys are obviously very highly trained with a very specific thing. And then, but even they talk about something and it's like, come on, seriously? What are you talking about?
And the part of the problem is that the nature of the internet unfortunately allows, I think, things to get out of hand this rapidly and to this scale, because, we do have, we're in an environment now where very not great products can be sold to a lot of people. And it's not just that like people are advertising them. It's that like no one's being told the honest truth about what is being sold in a lot of cases.
Do you remember the
money involved,
Do you remember the laser sight that was activated by the trigger that came out in SHOT Show like 2 or 3 years ago? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I missed that one.
Tell me. Bruce.
So I think that's actually, there's an article on that on TFB where like it was like to confirm a shot. It was sold for long range precision, and the idea was, I think there was a sensor that sensed when your finger was close to the trigger, and then if you touch the trigger, you got a red laser. And they were like, "This is great for final shot acquisition." And it's like, what? No, what is this? Why would you do this? And it's just like somebody. There were quite a few people that looked at that and was like, yeah, this is a good idea. It's like, no, it's not. You're stupid. It's not okay to be stupid.
Yeah, I think, there's always going to be stuff like that. There's always going to be the guy, one of my favorite ones. I don't know if it ever did show up at a show or anything like that, but one of my favorite ones was the senior citizen defender, which I'm pretty sure ran afoul of NFA laws. But
senior citizen defender,
yeah,
it
was a sleeve for a Ruger Mark III and or Mark IV that provided a forward angled grip. I guess so. Yeah, technically wouldn't be an AOW because it's angled. Wait.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, vertical, right?
It's not 90
yeah,
degrees.
It's not a vertical grip. Yeah.
This is how the ATF has made all of us panic about stuff like that.
Jesus.
But basically, it was a sleeve that went over a Ruger Mark IV and had like a red laser sight integrated into it. Yeah, I guess, like me if I'm being very generous, if I were to give one of those, when my grandmother was still alive, would I give my grandmother a Ruger Mark IV with this thing on it to defend herself in the middle of the night? I don't know if I would ever do that, but I'm sure there's people out there who probably saw this thing and were like, yes. And then of course there's videos and stuff. They put in the effort and, to demonstrate that their clientele was using it and liked it. So I guess there's that, but I think it's a sliding scale. And I think it's just kind of like it stuff like that happens when the industry is truly grasping for that next big thing. And I think the last time we had that big thing was probably when the P365 was released.
Oh yeah, because before that it was like the Shield.
Yeah, because before that everything was single stack 9mm, single stack 380, and now we have double stack, a stack and a half. I guess the Glock 48. You could argue that the Glock 43X kind of kicked it off with a 10-round capacity, but then Shield Arms kind of helped them out by getting the S15 magazines. But the P365. Or maybe we can even go back even further. The Keltec P11, even before any of this stuff. But I think that's a DAO gun, right? The P11.
Yeah, it's definitely hammer fired.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Or
so
it's like the half
P365. Really was the first of the. I'd say the first official like micro compact that could carry more than 10 rounds in a flush fit magazine. So
I would say, yeah.
That was the last time I remember there being like a massive disruption inside the direction that the firearms industry was going. Because now, like I can't imagine a carry gun that's bigger than a P365 because I'm so accustomed. Like a Glock 19 seems huge to me.
Yeah.
I definitely think
Yeah, it does.
so when I was younger, I grew up watching like James Yeager videos and like nothing fancy, and so
Yeah,
like
same.
so it that we're not too far removed in terms of what we remember or what we appreciated. So like the Magpul Dynamic videos, like I was a big Nighthawk guy because I saw Chris Costa running the Nighthawk, and I like like all that kind of stuff. So like all of like that interesting. It was all new and fresh in that era though, because it was like YouTube was kicking off, and it was like, oh, that's really interesting. And instead of because I grew up before YouTube, and it was all magazines. Like you had to go and
Yeah.
like I have the book of the AR-15. Like I have the first two versions in volumes of that from not American Rifleman, the other one, the very iconic one. I can't remember.
Larry Vickers?
No. The magazine, the firearms magazine.
Oh, there's a lot of them. There's Recoil.
Well, this predates Recoil. This was predate Guns and Ammo. Yeah, it was the book of the Guns and Ammo. I have both books of the 1911 and the AR-15. Still have those.
Soldier of Fortune.
Kevin probably knows about that one for sure. I didn't read Soldier of Fortune as much though.
Soldier of Fortune magazine was like my like.
Dude, that was like
if I had to go to the grocery store with my mother.
Yeah,
that was like I went over to the magazine stand and found Soldier of Fortune magazine.
I would rent the same book from the library all the time. The World of Firearms.
But yeah, so I also the before YouTube. Do you guys? I think maybe I asked somebody else this, but do you guys remember World Guns Are You? Maybe.
That doesn't sound like one I would have ever run across.
So it's like it was like before there was really a database for firearms, there was a Russian person, group, or government entity somewhere that was actually cataloging like all of these Russian small arms, like Cold War or like behind Iron Curtain small arms, and it's worldguns.ru. It might still be up, but it like had all this crazy intimate or really detailed information on other guns that you wouldn't otherwise have access to because I don't speak Russian. So it was really cool. Like I didn't have YouTube. I couldn't hop on and be like, oh, what is Magpul releasing in the next 5 days? Because it's Magpul week. Like it's not like that. That wasn't a thing. So it's really. I saw this thing that's kind of related to what we're talking about. It was talking about like the convenience that you demanded is now mandatory, and it was talking about the streaming services versus what we were watching in terms of like with commercials and stuff.
Dude, so I could rant on for hours about that because it's something that does kind of bother me because like a lot of I'm sure most people have realized it but then kind of just conveniently shove it under the rug. But the same thing that happened in the entertainment industry I think is happening in the firearms industry, but to a different degree. Like what's the back in the day everyone just lived with commercials, right? Because they were always there. Advertising had been around on TV since like the 1950s.
That's maybe when they come on.
That's when you go to the bathroom.
Yeah, it was a natural
You ran break. Very fast.
And then all these streaming services popped up and all of a sudden everyone was like, oh, this is great. I can finally watch my 20-minute TV show.
I would say TiVo, even before that, when you could pause stuff.
Yeah, the DVRs and things like that. But now everyone is so used to getting what they want. Or like even Amazon like does this now. They have same day delivery where I live for a lot of items. And so people are so used to getting what they want now that I think any company that says they're working on something will get burned alive. Just like take Surefire, for example. I love Surefire products. Like their lights are some of the best. They're super durable. They have great customer service. Like I've broken one, like I broke my X300 Turbo and
nice.
Yeah, I know.
That's abuse.
As hard as that, it is abuse. It was intentional abuse too. And they knew that.
Good,
and they still helped me out. But
I like that.
Surefire has been announcing or been teasing like some of their lights, for years.
Sorry. My Alexa just lost her mind. I don't know what that was. Continue.
No, it's
the robots are taking over.
The technological singularity is coming after us. But so they would, a lot of companies who do take their time to develop good products, they will take years to come out with this stuff. And a lot of times they unfortunately get leaked and people, or they'll get announced at SHOT Show, and then something will happen, and then it's in a development cycle because they want the product to be good when it comes out, right?
This
And
is
I
like
think,
movies and TV shows.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
I think what it does is that it rubs the customer base, like the people who are not me and you, the people who do not know how Surefire has to jump all through all these hoops and get manufacturing lines up and running, who just, maybe who just don't think about that beyond like, well,
Right, the
I
infrastructure.
don't get to have my XC3 right now.
Right.
That's dumb. I don't like Surefire because they said this thing was going to be ready and now it's not ready. I want thing. And so they're so used to it because that, your TV gives it to you, your phone gives it to you, Amazon gives you the products. You can freaking DoorDash like a donut, a single donut from Dunkin' Donuts if you wanted to, probably.
Oh yeah.
We were
America.
talking
There in 30
about
minutes.
we were talking about something like this not too long ago. I don't know if I actually released this recording quite yet, or if
Probably
it's
not.
in limbo because of my creative torture.
Is that
But
what we call it now? Limbo?
And we're gonna
It's
call
more
it limbo.
Yeah, it's more like purgatory.
Kevin, don't interrupt me. I'm gonna lose my train of thought again. I can't. I'm losing the plot. Oh no! And I've forgotten what I was gonna say now. Shit. Oh, so we were talking. God damn it. We were talking about people's need for things like right now, and I was talking about like the holster industry. So I'm from the days of yore. So like Pistol Forum, like ARFCOM, like when you could still buy guns on 1911 Forum or 1911 Addicts. Like I was a forum guy. I
Nice.
was at that time. Appendix carry wasn't as mainstream. In fact, it was not mainstream at all. Like we were using heat guns and modifying holsters to get them to be appendix, right? So, and then eventually we started getting like custom carry concepts, and we ended up with the Eidolon from Raven Concealment. Stick with me, I promise. I'm going somewhere with this. But at the time, even before the Eidolon, especially because that was a huge thing, was how normal it was to have to custom order a holster. Many people are familiar with Filster. It's a very common name. It's almost a household industry in the world of holsters in terms of availability and flexibility.
Was like one of my go-to holsters for the longest time.
And that's another thing that I'll say really quickly. They've definitely merged the divide between the hardcore training people and and just kind of the more casual. They've made it a lot more attainable. But with that being said, before any of that, Filster was custom made products, and I say that to say that you had to get appendix holsters custom made, and sometimes it took months to get things made. And I'm a 1911 guy, and I'm a leather guy. So I would order 5-shot leather holsters, which can take over a year. And I'm thinking of like all these wait times for things that I ordered that was normal to me. That it takes as long as it takes because it wasn't mainstream, or it wasn't like a manufacturing facility. It was a dude in a garage banging it out and shipping it when he had time between feeding his kid and doing whatever else thing that he had to do. And I think about now where I literally just Amazoned a Filster skeleton a couple months ago, which is for my wife's Beretta. Like that is a crazy reality. Skeleton? Yeah, I got Hannah the one for the 80X, and I got her an Enigma too. She's gonna experiment.
She already had an Enigma.
Yeah, it's alarming the speed at which products can come at you, even in our industry now. And I think it's created an unhealthy expectation. Yep. I think for gun owners.
That's I guess I can't imagine what the industry would look like if we had those wait times now, because that's what I'm used to.
Well, that's another thing. We got fed just another big heaping of candy by the government mandating that the ATF process Form 4s in a reasonable amount of time, which I think they basically said like 30 days is considered reasonable.
Yeah. But you'll have to wait forever for a Form 4 to come back.
Yeah. Now your Form 4s come back in sometimes hours. Like, they get processed insanely quickly. And because I do run an FFL/SOT, right, and having talked to the ATF, they're very happy about that too. They processing those Form 4s, like they've put a lot of time and effort into getting that wait time down, because I don't think anyone, let's play devil's advocate here. I know everyone doesn't like the ATF and we wish it didn't exist.
Here it comes.
We can talk about that ad nauseum, but if you want to think about it, like any bureaucrat who has to deal with like some sort of government agency, ask any of them if they would like to have like a 6-month backlog of just stacks of paperwork and
Right, more work to do.
yeah, like who wants that? No, like let's find a way to streamline it so that like it gets done and we can focus on other things, and then also so that these people can get their the products they paid for, because that I think that was a big deal with people. They didn't want to buy suppressors because like, hey, I'm spending $1,200 and I don't get to take this thing home with me for a year. Now it's like a couple days at that.
Government efficiency, you sir are speaking heresy. Heresy, I say.
Well, it does happen occasionally, and that's like
Occasionally,
if we want to say like if you want to say one good thing about the ATF right now is that hey, they've not only reduced the time significantly, they're staying that way. So
Yeah, it has been consistent. I have been kind of. I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it has not. I will credit that.
I don't think it will, because now that they've established it, like think about like once it's like like us, like you don't do your chores for a week, they're gonna start piling up, right? But if you do that ahead of time, you start catching,
not in my house.
Once you're caught up and you're starting to you get in the swing of things, you can take care of things like on the fly, like they are now. Then it's easy.
You keep it going.
Right.
Small, consistent efforts instead of big fucks.
Short of like Silencer Shop or Silencer Central or like, I don't know, whoever, the big Capital Armory going out of business and giving away every single one of their suppressors for free, just pay for the tax stamp. I don't think the NFA branch is going to have any issues processing Form 4s from now on.
Right.
I hope,
right.
I hope I'm right. That's one of the few times where I don't hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm right.
Well, so I think it's finally getting to the point now, maybe not necessarily politics, but it seems like the NFA items are getting more mainstream, so it's becoming more, it's less taboo to have a suppressor, an SBR, or something like that. And I think that's definitely the flip side of what we've talked about already is, there's a lot of media, there's a lot of publication, there's a lot of coverage, but that on the other hand has made a lot of people really interested in this that otherwise would not have been.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's it's good, but it's also bad.
Realizing the items are not as scary as they originally maybe thought they were.
Yeah.
Well, this is interesting because it kind of mirrors a situation overseas in a way. Like Austria very recently had suppressors taken off their like, I guess, like prohibited or like regulated or restricted items. I think you still have to have a hunting license in order to own one, just because like having one implies that you own a firearm, and you have to have a firearms license over there anyway.
Okay.
But I don't think it adds on to like the amount of firearms you own or whatever. It's basically treated like I guess like another item that you'd buy for guns or whatever.
Like an accessory or something
like that. But anyway, they've been taken off of like the prohibited list of items. And I think in the United States, within the last, I want to say in the last 10 years, we've definitely won the cultural battle when it comes to like the perception on suppressors. Like, I don't think anyone, even like your most hardcore, like blue-haired, screaming, like liberal person who thinks you're going to murder everyone. I don't think they're looking at a suppressor and going, oh, well, that's an assassin's weapon. Especially if no honest person will anyway, because like if you've ever been around one, that doesn't make a gun silent. It just makes it less annoying. Right?
Yeah, it's just less upsetting.
The cultural battle has definitely been won.
Yeah.
And I think that has gotten a lot of people, it's funny because I don't talk about politics on TFB, but we're not on my podcast. So
funny you say that.
I think now, I think, there's people reviving talk about the Shush Act, which would,
I have more faith in that than I necessarily do with machine guns. But
I don't think, I think most people who would like them deregulated understand that like, that's kind of like and you have to look at it from, like we often say, you can't like take the Second Amendment and just like look at it in its raw. You have to look at it in its historical context. Well, machine guns didn't exist back then, and cannons did for sure. Yeah. But also the country wasn't as populous and didn't have any as many insane people running around as it did as we do today. So I think a lot of people would, even if they ideologically agree with that reason, I think it would still be a stretch to get people to agree to that, completely deregulating them.
Right. Well, I mean, and then even regardless of politics or not, I mean, there's always a standing mental health aspect when we start talking about guns in any aspect, and then having access to them more readily. It's like, well, and then so that becomes another thing.
But the guy that made the Gatling gun, he made it so that wars would be safer. Don't you?
I know that was supposed to end war.
It was.
Yeah, it was supposed to do what the nuke was supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. There's always something else.
Yeah.
Drones are the next thing.
Drones will end wars.
I've seen that drone war, that footage. That is terrifying.
Yeah, that's something else. That's like something I didn't expect for 2024.
Nope.
I think
16-year-olds murking people on a battlefield from their house was not on my bingo list for 25.
I do think it's funny though that people are alarmed by this, because we've been, like, I say we, but the United States as a country and as a military power has been doing this since like well before 2008. Like, we forget that we had an entire 8-year administration whose legacy is, hey, we drone strike a lot of people.
Oh, oopsie. That wasn't bad, guys.
But what I'm saying is now is like, well, we're witnessing the same thing. It's just on a much smaller scale.
It's a macro. Yeah.
Like, I think honestly, like, we wouldn't be seeing any of this. Like, if the United States had rolled in there the second that, their 3-day special military operation didn't end in 3 days, and the United States for some reason decided to roll, do tanks, A-10s, F-15s, F-22s, like, roll in and decide to tell Russia to sit down, we wouldn't have seen any of this drone stuff, because we'd be doing it on an entirely different scale.
Yeah.
I think this drone warfare stuff is how desperate nations wage war, because these commercial components and stuff like that, this is what they have access to, and they can be easily augmented with what's available in the field. Because if you look at it, neither side is very well equipped. Russia's dealing with Cold War era technology, and Ukraine doesn't have enough people and equipment to fight on the same scale that Russia is in terms of people.
Well, it's really high-end guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, it is. It's a guerrilla warfare on a massive scale.
I mean, the drones of today are the IEDs of yesterday. So. Yeah,
and I'm sure those are those are. The only reason there aren't IEDs is because both of these are developed nations, there's legit minefields out there.
Yeah, they're not improvised though. They're just legitimate war implements.
The butterfly mines, they're scattered everywhere.
All right, I hate to rain on our war parade, but I just realized I was asking a second part question. So how about SHOT Show now? I just realized
what we talking
completely.
About
I was like, wait a second, what were we talking about before this?
Yeah, we took a long way to get around to it.
SHOT Show.
Which is the scenic route.
No. I meant like, how was this? We could move on and talk about how is this year's SHOT Show? Tell me about this year's SHOT Show.
Yeah, how is this year's SHOT Show?
The longest road.
Let's see. It was again, I'll reiterate what I said before. It gets less interesting every year, and it becomes more, for me, it becomes more about the work. And so I'm at SHOT Show to get videos made, and this year, even though I'm not responsible for a vast majority of them, I actually did the second amount. I will toot my own horn. Between New James and Hop, we did 104 videos total for SHOT Show, I believe, during the week.
My favorite thing is clicking on one of y'all's video, and because the snapshot of what it is doesn't always have who's doing the interview.
No,
and it's like
interviewer, the opposite person.
It's the interviewer roulette, and you click on it, and you're like at the middle of the screen, but then it's Hop, and it's like the top right, and you're like, yep, all right. And then there's Luke, bottom right, all right, perfect. And then there's James, right in the middle, perfect.
Yeah, that's actually funny because we do kind of cover the spectrum of people. I do like to tell people, I do lie on the internet, and I tell people that I'm 4'8", just so that Hop appears to be a normal height human being.
Unfortunately, we had Hammy who met him and did that lovely picture and then spoiled that, because I know he's the same height as Kevin.
Yeah, I kind of ruined it by doing an interview with Hammy on the floor, because Hammy is a short king. Let me tell you
Yes, he is. We
Yes,
actually
yes.
I just published that episode right before this recorded. That does not mean that's when this came
that.
out.
Do you think his
But-
kids are going to share his vertically challenged stature, or do you think his kids are going to be much taller than him?
Well, he
Vertically
said
challenged. He's a king.
his I think he said his wife is roughly the same height as well. So
their kids are going to be gigantic. Probably that's probably what's going to happen. They're going to be
they're going to be the hobbits in their own house.
Space Marines or something like that.
Like
God.
towering
40K.
over Hammy.
Well, he keeps popping them out. I think he's getting a child labor force for all that 3D
I don't
printing.
think he's doing it himself. I think he's 3D printing children.
I think that's what it is.
He's found a way to create a biological 3D printer, and that's how he's making all of his kids.
Yep. Yeah, I think he's outsourcing for to Espo for like the media coverage. I think there's a conspiracy going on here.
Yeah, why is that? Like, I was wondered why Hammy doesn't put more stuff on his YouTube channel.
Hammy has a YouTube channel?
He does. He has a YouTube channel.
Wow, Bryce, I didn't even know that.
I'll be honest. I don't watch that much on
website.
YouTube.
His website is where he sells like all of his stuff. I think that's enough for him. So
no, like like firearms content. There's I only follow a few people on YouTube, but most of the content I consume is elsewhere.
Oh yeah, it's the same for me. Like a lot of it's changed. Like I used to watch like Hickok 45 all the time and stuff like that. You know,
I've really whittled that down
as I've grown up, quote unquote,
in
the gun industry. Like my tastes and my interests have changed. Like I don't watch the same stuff I did.
We all started with Such and like Military Armament Channel and Nut and Fancy and all those other ones. And then
I'm still subscribed to Nut Fancy.
Okay, very good.
I cannot unsubscribe from him.
Which one? Which channel?
the original.
Okay. Is that Lieutenant Colonel Nut and Fancy now? Is that a different channel?
I don't pay attention. I'm there for the watch.
The feature length movies. Yeah.
Yeah. Where I think it's a mystery. It's kind of like watching. There's a Canadian guy called AVE. I think he's like a millwright or something like that. But
okay,
I never know what his videos are exactly going to be about. But he mumbles and meanders through some sort of a topic, and it's kind of just good to put on in the background. And that's kind of what I use Nut and Fancy videos for now.
Nice.
Did you ever watch Hippo 336 or whatever, the Canadian guy that had that crazy eclectic selection of P210s and crazy like Canadian small arms that we can't have here?
No, but no, I do understand that though, because I was extremely jealous for years when everyone made a run on AKs, and then the price of Norinkos here went through the roof as they dried up, and I guess over in Canada they're a dime a dozen.
Yep. Well,
Wow.
I learned there was a similar event that was with like the Polish Tantals. I remember those parts kits were like everywhere for a little while. And then like a similar thing happened with because they have a restriction on these, like the actual AK-47, I think, or at least they do now, but there's a piston operating Chinese AK that they can have that we can't. And like the AKM magazine Norinco M14 thing, it's like they all have all these really cool guns, but they only shoot 5 rounds. So it's like,
Who?
Yeah. But, oh well, that's okay.
All right.
Oh, Luke is muted.
My bad. I pulled a U, Bryce, from last time.
Yeah.
This is a deep
I didn't mute you.
Yeah, that was my fault, actually, last time.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second, I didn't even do it.
I tried to hit the cough button, and unlike in this platform, in the platform that I use, the button is right next to everyone else's mute button. So I think I panicked. And I was like, I'm going to cough, and so I went to go press it, and
now
talking to myself everybody's talking past me. I'm like, what? Hello? And then like my Discord's going bing, bing, bing. I'm like, what the hell? Oh God.
Technical difficulties, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me get what were you excited to see about SHOT Show, and then we'll move on from this topic of shows and shots.
Well, I was pleasantly surprised that the Beretta released the Bobcat 20X.
Nice.
Okay.
which
and the
is
30X in 32, which is super
and the
cool.
30X was cool too. I'm a rimfire guy though at heart, just because it's
I like
the
32 caliber,
the gateway drug. Yeah, that 32 is making a comeback. It seems like. I just had a couple guys request holsters for some 32 ACP firearms. So I don't know. Maybe we're seeing a 32 ACP resurgence.
Well, 32 in general, because like the 32 Ultra Carry just dropped, and Ruger came out with their LCR in 327 Federal. So there's a lot of 32 resurgence going on.
Speaking of Ruger, I was happy to see that they finally brought the 1022 up to the 21st century. They have a carbon fiber 1022 now as a factory option.
Wow.
And that's also awesome. It's funny because most people won't know this, because you can't just go. It's one of those things like where I'm fortunate enough I get to go in person and touch the thing, because they've done something and they won't tell me what it is. But I have a good example of it, and I almost want to buy a brand new manufacturer one just for the comparison. But I have a 1022 receiver here at home. They're made out of cast aluminum, right?
Okay.
And they're like, they're painted or covered with some sort of cheap coating that I can take like a pocket knife and scrape off with it. Right. This new stuff feels almost like powder coating, or like some sort of like maybe they've anodized them or something like that. But the new coating is very good compared to like old Rugers, and it's kind of like they won't admit that they've made it better, but they have. And it's at SHOT Show, I couldn't get it out of anyone to admit that, like, yeah, the coating's new, like we made it better, but I think they just kind of want the new ones to come out.
You have just confirmed something. So in my professional life, I touch a lot of guns all day long. I work on guns, and part of it, I see a lot of Rugers go through my hands, and there is absolutely a less baked spray paint feeling to them now. It feels absolute thicker, difference. Right? Yes. Yeah. It feels like a more adult. Well, even more than that, it feels like an adult, like firearm finish. It doesn't feel like what a Max 9 used to feel like. I don't know how else to describe that.
Oh man, the Max 9 is probably like my least favorite of the micro compacts. I know I sound like I'm dogging Ruger really hard, because I am, but I also love them for making. Well, yeah, but like they do good. They do some things really good, and they do some things really badly.
They brought the A-Team M14 back, so they did something right.
That's good.
In the 22.
They've been keeping Marlin alive, which I'm really happy for.
Also good.
But yeah, the new 1022 variants, I'm super interested in those. I think
I don't actually own a 1022. I just realized
that's a crime.
I know. It might. I've never owned one.
That's
what?
It's like that's like the very first. I think for me, it's like it holds a special place in my heart, because it legitimately was the very first gun I ever shot as a kid.
That is
mine was a JC Higgins Model 18 or Model 19 or something. Semi-automatic 22.
I never got to shoot our Ruger 1022. The police took it. My dad refused to pay $50 to get it back.
What?
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of fun lore with Kevin. He's a neat dick. He's a neat guy.
Is this like Monopoly? Like they took your gun to jail and you had to pay $50 to get it out of jail?
Well, my brother was showing it to someone who showed it to someone who...
one of those.
Called a lot of police, and they confiscated it.
Kevin, that's why Kevin just keeps us on our toes in terms of just what we are to expect out of him.
Yeah, it's the chaos factor.
I love it so much. Oh my god!
Wait, the Z factor?
Oh yeah, the Z factor. So
the K factor.
So last year, I think we mentioned this earlier. So lever actions were the flavor last year. Everybody reviving a lever action, and then 2011s. I think we're starting to kick off a little bit more. Started seeing more Turkish, and then now this year, I think it's just 2011s, right?
Well, I actually wanted to change my answer, because I certainly saw people doing a lot of 2011s, but you're right. 2011s have been happening for a long time.
Yeah.
And people, like Staccato released you could argue that today or this year was the year of 2011, because Staccato released the HD, which is pretty cool.
Not a 2011. Love it.
Yeah, not a 2011.
Definitely not a 2011. Wink, wink.
Staccato that takes Glock mags.
Yeah.
PSA announced theirs. There was a new, I think Bull Armory has a new one.
Yeah, they're always updating those. Those are super cool.
Nighthawk released their 2K11. No, wait, was it Nighthawk? No, not Nighthawk. I got it
No,
wrong. It's Kimber.
that's Kimber. Kimber did
Yeah,
the
Kimber.
2311 or no, not 23.
2K11.
2K. You're right. You're
Yeah,
right. 2K.
2K11.
Sorry.
So a lot of people did them, right? But I kind of want to go back and say it's this year was the year a battle between two cartridges that are desperately trying to become relevant, and I don't think either one of them are going to succeed very well at it.
What calibers are we talking?
8.6 Blackout versus 338 Arc.
Yeah.
Because we've got Ballistic Advantage making some 338 Arc barrels. Bear Creek Arsenal jumping in on the 8.6 Blackout train. Palmetto State Armory has a 338 Arc rifle coming out. Of course, Q is doing their thing with the 8.6 Blackout, and there are a couple. I believe there's a couple companies. I think Starline Brass has started to manufacture brass.
Is Lapua doing?
They probably got their hands in it as well. If if any cartridge initially takes off, usually Starline and Lapua pick up the new brass contracts pretty quick.
Well, so I know
it could have been a battle between those two cartridges, but it could have just been me and my very not seeing the forest for the trees.
I don't know. Whatever. I mean, PSA was coming out. They had the concept with the 338 crank, and then they had the 338. Was it Saber or something or Jackal or something something along whatever.
So the PSA mixtape is their 338 Arc pistol.
Oh, there you go. So
interesting.
Yeah, so and then 8.6 because we had a lot of media leading up to the obviously the 8.6, and I was following it through the pure cartridge development when guys were like, oh, I found a reamer and now it's in a bolt gun. Ooh. So and then from there was there seemed to be it landed relatively well. There's an interesting story with the development. I know Kevin did a pretty good, I mean, he was going around talking about that quite a bit. And then 338, I've seen a little bit of stuff on that from private creators that I like watching. Actually, I got to find who made that. But and the caliber seems to be, even Hornady's own design philosophy was, hey, we just made the caliber regardless if there's a market for it, or we made a very good caliber, but we don't seem to concern ourselves with the platform that's shooting it. It's like, figure it out. It's like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah, I think
sounds like Hornady.
I've been keeping tabs on 8.6 Blackout for about 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I remember talking to anyone at length about it after hearing about it was actually Ray Helms of the X-Ring channel. We were at a Surefire event, and Ray Helms is a very talented shooter, very smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
Just a absolute, you wouldn't guess it based on his age and his size, but that man he's an athlete through and through. I believe he was in law enforcement for a long time, but great shooter.
Yeah,
very intelligent
guy.
He
trained snipers or something like that, and now he works for Microtech.
Yeah. And Ray's an awesome guy. But him and I talked about 8.6 Blackout for a long time, and I just every time I kept thinking about it, it just brings me back to I went through this whole process of trying to do big, heavy bullet, very subsonic bullet.
Mm-hmm.
I did it all with 4.58 SOCOM 10 years ago. And so every time I look at 8.6 Blackout, I'm like, okay, what is this giving me that the other heavy, slow projectile doesn't give me? But I guess everything's about the rotational energy. And really the only way you get that high rotational energy is with the really insane 1 in 3 twist rate. But then you're limited to solid projectiles or bonded projectiles, because non-bonded projectiles apparently explode the second they come out of the barrel. So I think 338 Arc, you're kind of trying to do the same thing, but it seems more sensible, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've never really spent a lot of time with either of the cartridges, but they do interest me on an academic level. But from would I ever own one of those things level, I don't think so. It just seems I don't hunt enough for it to matter to me. And that's Blackout is my suppressor. I want to go shoot a quiet gun.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a really guilty pleasure when it comes to calibers. I find ballistics, or just, I don't know, the science of bullets and just the whole science about bullets in general. Everything to do with bullets is super interesting. The problem I have with it's kind of like looking at a supercar, or me specifically, somebody that does not drive fast, looking at a supercar and going, well, if I owned that, that'd be really cool. But it's like, am I going to drive that and use it the way that it's going to be, that it can be used? No, I'm not. So like, yes, I would love to have calibers like a 338 arc or anything like that, that just because mechanically and just technologically it's really interesting, it has a lot of potential, but I'm not hunting, I'm not shooting things with a heartbeat. More often than not, I'm shooting things on paper. Yes, I train to shoot things with a heartbeat, but man, I gotta pay for this ammo. It's shit ain't cheap.
That's what hurt about 458 SOCOM is the only way I made it even remotely feasible to shoot on a like couple times a year basis was I ordered tons of components. I mean, my whole build in the first place was not an intelligent one, but the ammo is so prohibitively expensive, I could only afford to shoot my special hand loads like a couple of times a year because the components even were expensive. Like one bullet, I was using 600 grain projectiles, but the one bullet was like $1.50. Each piece of brass is like 79 or 80 cents.
God bless.
Not inexpensive components, but I was able to shoot that gun for $1.50 less than shelf price because I went through the trouble of hand loading all of my ammo.
So I'm getting into the realm of things making more sense if I start reloading, because I've occasionally brought up that I'm interested in bolt action or shooting further than typical red dot distances. And I've been looking to like different calibers and things like that, and really just getting into a new hobby. And that was a mistake, because now I'm getting into all these like different calibers that are super cool. And it's like, oh, well, like if I want to shoot to 1,000, there's a lot of things that fit that role. Like if all I'm doing is slapping steel, there's so much. And then it's like, okay, well, what do I want this bullet to do past that? And then it's like, oh, fuck, because it's like you go through so like, especially with bolt guns, because you got long action, short action magnums, mini actions, if you're even looking at like Howas or like 7.62s or anything like that. And then it's like, okay, well, are you going to build the gun? Are you going to buy the, it's like, holy fucking hell. And that's without even getting into calibers. I mean, the calibers that bolt actions can shoot are like the list. You think just like semi-automatic shoot a lot of bullets. Woo! The selection is unreal.
Yeah, so we're definitely spoiled for choice in the United States when it comes to guns.
Yeah. Absolutely. The selection is, I mean, and I've just recently started listening to like the Hornet. I think we talked about this on your podcast, but I just recently really been getting into the Hornady podcast, and they're talking about the development behind like the 6.5 PRC. Yeah,
they've got some great discussions about like like even 7mm has been really taking off right now, especially for hunters. And that's a cartridge I can get behind. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. I'd been really kind of getting down the rabbit hole with the 22 Creeds, the 6 Arcs, the 6mm Creedmoors, and like a lot of the PRS guns, typically like that kind of sit, because a lot of it is fast bullet, low recoil, because we want to watch our shots. We want to, quick, but these guys are also running around with like 20 plus pound guns. Yeah. So it's like, oh God, I don't want to fucking hump that thing around.
Yeah. That's a very athletic sport. I don't think a lot of people give it the credit it deserves, because those rifles are not light.
No, those things are like lances, and they're massive. So, all right. Was I supposed to ask anything else, Kevin? Was that it? Did you have anything to ask before we moved into our second segment?
No further questions.
Luke, you're better at guests than I am. Am I supposed to ask you anything else?
I don't think so. I mean,
okay, cool.
I'm an open book. You can ask me whatever you want.
Sweet. I love that. Okay, so now we're going to move into another segment that I keep forgetting to put into our shows because I'm not good at consistency. But we like to talk about what's new, what we've...
Yay, what's new?
That we're doing. And I know Kevin's very excited for this next...
Oh, yes.
So we'll let Kevin take it just real quick. Let me... This is... new things that we're excited about, new things that we've heard about, and then guns if you've built them. So, Kevin, on that note, is there anything you'd like to share?
I have built a new gun.
Oh, have you? Is this your first gun since we recorded with Luke?
Yes.
Yes. Was that because you were ordering that frame on that podcast?
Perhaps.
Which actually, did that come out today?
Yeah, just this morning.
Yeah, that's why we're recording today. It was on purpose. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, dude, I really forgot. Yeah.
So what prompted that? Tell us about this journey for you.
Well, I originally had a Glock Gen 4 OG basic. Then someone, Bryce, told me to put a red dot on it, which I hesitated for a long time. Then I got a Brownell slide to put the red dot on. So I did that. I had that for a while. Then I'm like, you know what? I really want my OG Glock back. So then I got a frame from Brownells. It's like a Lone Wolf Tactical compact frame. And it's my first ever FFL transfer.
Compact frame, you say?
Well, the box says compact. My eyes and my tactile feeling are telling me it's not.
This is like you ordering a spring, except it was the wrong spring for the wrong gun.
They have quite a few
Many
springs.
such cases.
That has never occurred. I get a text from him, and it's just like a hat. Like you can kind of see a beer in the corner of the picture, and he's like, "This fucking gun won't go back together." I'm like, can't imagine what he's up to. And then without fail, there's like, because we both get up like super early, like around 5:30, because I'm getting, I'm wrapping up with my kid. I'm leaving. I'm doing whatever I got to do, and I get a text. He's like, I lost a spring and my gun's still not back together. And I'm like, yeah, that tracks.
But yeah, this is it's Lone Wolf Tactical. It's my first ever FFL transfer too, which I have Bryce can attest to. I have
in terms of like ordering one online.
Yes, ordering something online, sending it to an FFL transfer. I have fought that tooth and nail.
So it just took Luke and I talking to you on a podcast for you to do this after what, a decade?
Maybe. It also took me bartering my old AK mags for.
Have you ever tried drugs, Kevin? You should try drugs too.
It's probably
Should
cheaper.
Should I, Luke?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
peer
Luke
pressure
seems
seems
like
to
a
work
good
so
idea, yeah.
easily on you that I feel I can get you to
Well,
do anything now.
Not
So, like,
really. Maybe from you, not me though.
maybe I'm just
No.
more influential than you are, Bryce.
So here's
You have a more smooth, silky voice. I think that's what it is.
Here's the full cycle. I had a bunch of old AK mags. I took them to the local gun store. I sold them for like 60-ish bucks. I bartered 25 of that for the FFL transfer fee. And while he's like writing up the paperwork, I'm like, oh wait, I'll just order this stuff right now in front of you. And I'm like, oh wait, shit, the completed slide's not there anymore. I'm like, oh shit. So I pan it and I'm like, bear slide. That's fine. Parts.
Stripped is fine.
I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Parts, that's fine. Barrel, that's fine. So I ordered all that 2-day shipping because I'm impatient as hell. Thank you, Amazon. And
Well, the frame I think has to be second day.
no, does it? Oh,
I think handguns have to be second day.
I don't know. So it all came today. I got my stuff. I came home. I put it together. I took it to the range, and then my prototype striker control device decided to break. So
That was your problem. You took factory parts and combined them with a prototype.
That's what it was,
have
yeah.
a new name. So Bryce loves to name his guns. I'm not too terribly into it, but I have a new name for my gun.
Name.
Cobblepot Glock.
Mr. Cobblepot. All right.
It's the
I like
Cobblepot
it.
Glock.
I like that.
Old Stanley is put back together now.
We need to get Sharky to make us a stickers for our guns. That'd be sick.
Dude, I want a t-shirt that says Cobblepot Glock.
That'd be great. We need to have that. That's when we eventually have t-shirts and stuff, like actual t-shirts, we'll make one. That'd be sick. I love that.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. It's honestly really interesting to build from like a stripped bare piece of plastic into a firearm. So I'm happy that I went through that journey.
No, that's super cool. I'm really happy you did that. And I'm happy you had a good time. It's addicting for sure.
I asked Bryce to talk me out of it. He's like, "No, sir, it's a good idea."
will not be doing that.
I was like, "Damn it!"
I wouldn't ever discourage someone who is experienced with firearms that you are from trying to do that if they've never done it
absolutely.
before. I think you can only benefit from it.
It was
he plays a
awesome.
goofball sometimes, but he is more than capable to do things. Super capable.
It was fun realizing it was it took Glock 17 mags, not Glock 19 mags.
After telling me he thought that gun was stupid, so it is kind of funny.
Yeah. And I just picked up the old Glock 22 mag I had laying around, so it works.
You can stuff 9 in that, and they kind of work sometimes.
I know.
It kind of work.
The people at the indoor shoot range are like, You could
Do you,
put
do you
9
see
in
what
this
happened?
22.
This is a learning experience. Now
Yeah.
you
Yes.
have more information.
Yes,
Like,
perfect. I love
I didn't even
this.
skip a beat at the indoor, but yes, I can put 9mm in the 22. But like,
So,
what are you talking about?
Kevin, eventually you're going to get to the point where my point is, where you end up buying parts, forgetting about the parts, having them come in the mail, and
I've
you're like,
already
I don't
done
even
that.
know what the hell that's for.
No, I have so many Glock Gen 3 parts. I showed
Yeah.
Luke earlier. I have a whole bag. I'm almost
Yeah.
on the verge of building another one.
You've seen my bin, right? My
I'm
just gun parts
organized.
bins.
I'm organized, Drippin.
Yes, you have. They've multiplied since then. But it's funny. So like, I'll have plans and parts coming in, and I'm just like, I don't. Not coming in necessarily, like I buying stuff all the time. I just mean in terms of like, I have things that someone sent me, or like I traded something, or like, and then I have plans for guns, and then I just kind of forget, and I'm like, oh, wonder what this was for. Whoops. But well, Kevin, you need to keep us up to date on your journey with building guns. This is exciting.
It is. What new things have you done, Mr. Brace?
I have. And Luke, mine is very brief, and then we can talk to the cool guy who has really interesting things to talk about. Actually,
It's funny because I have roughly the same answer as Kevin, so we could use yours as a palate cleanser before we keep talking about Glocks.
Okay, all right. So, that's right. Yeah, yeah, okay. So mine is more. So I recently have been deciding that I like rifles, and more than I used to, because I have rifles. I have a couple. I think they're cool. I have one that I pull triggers on quite a bit, and it's a rifle that I practice with because I think I should be as an American citizen, I think it's a really good idea for me to be a good rifleman, because it seems to be
America
in our blood, right? So, be a good rifleman. I like iron sights. I like stuff like that. Recently, I've been trying to get into LPVOs, magnified optics, and really get an appreciation and understanding for what I like, what I don't like, and getting into a new hobby. So with that, and it's not going to be as sexy necessarily, has been tripods. I have figured out that I am very interested in tripods and shooting tripods and all the different components in terms of like the ball heads and the different like manufacturers and the clamps. And oh my goodness, I was unaware that this was a thing, because now I'm looking like at different carbon fiber legs, and I'm looking at different ball heads, and I'm looking at different mounts, and I'm like, ooh, I can make my own.
I'm gonna interrupt you to shamelessly plug a friend / a former guest, or a guest that I've had on TFB's podcast pretty recently. Mr. Rob Gearing of Spartan Precision Equipment. He makes some of the best shooting tripods and bipods out there.
Who is it? Send it to me off air. I'm
Spartan Precision Equipment.
Okay.
He's a UK based guy, but he used to make these tactical tripods and bipods, but now he's kind of expanded into like some more hunting stuff, and his stuff is actually pretty well thought out. I like his methodology, and his you can actually probably message him yourself on Instagram, and he'll probably talk you into the one that's probably best for you based on what you need. That's what he's more interested in.
That's awesome.
I already like him. He has a tripod brace, and that's sick. I love it.
Yeah,
I'm on the website right now. This is awesome.
He's got a lot of cool stuff. But no, that sounds like it'd be
this
right
is
right
up my alley. Yeah, this is. I didn't realize. So as Kevin well knows, I like getting nerdy about anything that is possibly be any like if I can be nerdy about something, I'm going to be. And this is just I'm so happy. I'm quite chuffed. So tripods, yes, that's the new thing.
New rabbit hole.
So and so how I started was
ibuprofen.
Well, so I don't know if you're familiar with the Bog Death Grip line in terms of
I've used them
tripod.
quite a lot.
Exactly. So they're kind of they're not kind of. I mean, I would say they're a great plug and play option from what I can tell in tripods. Yeah. However, I've already modified mine because the saddle's super cool until you realize it's not, because you only want to use Arca because you're an adult. Mm-hmm. So you take the saddle off, and then you realize that's like half the weight of it. And I've been, because I've been trying to honestly create or farm for content. So I'm trying to figure out if it's something worth pursuing. Is a budget option for like walking into the world of tripods and ball heads and things like that. So I've been scouring. I know we had talked about flashlights before. And Kevin and I talked about the airsoft flashlights, but I'm doing that with the tripods. I'm going to see if there's anything worthwhile. And then when I'm finally done with that, I'll just go with like a 2 vets or something like that. But
What's the
or the Spartan
end
Precision.
goal?
The end goal is to have content to be able to compare popular items. Like here's a lower end option for something to
So
get
this
you
is just you
into.
trying to sort it out in your head, like what
Yeah,
you're
but-
doing an exploratory research.
Yeah, this is an experiment that I'm just publicizing how I do things myself.
well,
I
that's
guess
worthwhile
would be
for sure.
so. I mean, is that? Yeah, that's basically this is Kevin. I would roughly say this is what I did before I did this, right?
Yes.
Is it roughly like I would just like buy a bunch of stuff and then try it all out and go, I hate this, and then
Money
move on
is
to a different thing.
no object for Bryce's hobbies and or fury.
That is not. Nope, that is not true. My wife listens to this.
That is completely true. It doesn't matter how much it takes. He will find the right tripod.
Oh my God, no, not that. That's not what you're not helping me
He
here.
has 3 secret
What
credit
kind of-
cards he tells no one
This
about.
is crazy. What is happening?
Second mortgage.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, yeah. So tripods are the thing that I'm getting into, and I think it's an interesting idea. I've never really been truly vulnerable in terms of like, hey, I'm new to this. I have no idea what I'm talking about because I try to know as much as possible before I form an opinion.
It's exciting. It's exciting to be like so new into something. Like,
Well, if you're-
like me
if
building
you're-
guns, it's like
If you're
new.
interested in watching Kevin or I be into new things, follow our YouTube channel, Kevin, and follow the Carry Handle Gaming. But I'm also going to be
Yes, Carry Handle
releasing
Gaming.
Carry Handle Gaming. Watch Kevin's shorts. He does a very good job, and we like old video games and obscure video games.
And sometimes new video games are insanely hard.
Yes, that make us very sad.
But we can't
But-
stop playing.
We can't stop playing. So I'm going to be releasing a long form one coming up. I just got to finish editing it and agreeing that I don't hate it. Luke, tell me your things. What is exciting and new?
Yes.
Mm.
What is?
Exciting and new.
One of the
Mhm.
two. It doesn't have to be both.
Okay, I won't tell you which one, but I'm pretty sure you guys can figure it out. So I've been messing around with. So let's see. So everyone knows who Strike Industries is, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna try to
Yes.
keep this as organized as possible. Strike Industries, they make like aftermarket parts for like Glocks, SIGs, AR-15, stuff like that. It's like anodized parts. They kind of look like futuristic, all angular speed cuts and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Technically, they're a military contractor, sir.
For everything, well, I know they won the cable management contract.
Yep.
So for my opinion on them is like for every good product that they come out with 5 superfluous products, like ones that like I look at them and I'm like, well, that's just meant for people who are only after aesthetics. So anyway, I use their stuff. They make from a machining perspective, they do good work. They're a great machining company. Their products are always solid. Just not everything they make is for me. But they did come out with something pretty interesting that piqued my interest. They started a new firearms company because previously they only sold unserialized parts. So they started up Strike Arms.
Okay.
Strike Arms, their flagship firearm is actually a pistol frame called the SAPC. So it's a compact Gen 3 Glock pistol pattern. So it's a populated frame. And they went ahead and sent me one for review. And in addition to that, they're like, you know what? We're just going to send you all the parts to build your own Glock. Because this is exactly what Kevin just did. But I'm doing it with all one manufacturer's parts, okay? Instead of like some like unobtainium prototype parts that are broken now. So
if you're not Frankensteining a Glock, are you really building a Glock?
yeah. And so my big focus on it is one, how does this compare to like a police trade-in, like, you know, like a standard off-the-shelf Glock? Like, why would I buy this when I could buy a Gen 3 Glock 19? And then I'm also function testing it, which is not going very well right now, if I'm going to be completely transparent. It seems like it doesn't want to chamber ammunition very reliably. Like I've been at home, of course, I've been running it with snap caps, and they go, you know, the thing goes into battery fully every single time. But it's like, I think it's a wear-in issue because I feel like the striker block and the the what is it called? The bar that triggered the strike, that put the striker safety. The interaction there is a little rough, and I'm wondering if it's just like a manufacturing thing, like maybe the parts came out too clean, or like maybe. And I'm assuming if I had to put my money on it, it's probably on the frame side, because that's the only new element here. Because Strike has been making barrels and slides and all those other parts, like magazines, for a long time.
Right.
That I'm wondering if like maybe it's just some of their parts that they've made for the frame itself maybe aren't like completely like ready to go, but I'm not sure yet. Maybe it's like just one of those things where it's like after 300 rounds the gun just starts working, because I have noticed the malfunctions happen less and less as I shoot it. So it's probably just a tolerance issue. And I'm kind of disappointed in it from that perspective, but it looks great. And it also is a pretty affordable way to get like an adaptable Glock, because on paper you're spending like maybe $800 for this, or you're spending $800 for a Glock MOS, or I think it's close to $900. It depends. For the same amount of functionality, which includes a dust cover rail, optics compatibility, and everything like that. But what the Strike gives you is that you have all the hardware that comes with it, the Strike slide, and also it's a universal optics mount, the slide.
And it doesn't work.
Yeah, and it doesn't work. You get the joy of testing, doing the testing and development and the break-in period all on your own.
So I guess that's where it is like, okay, like if it worked, would you say at this moment it has a value? There's a value proposition.
I would say for sure, and I'm entirely certain that it will work, because I've dealt with firearms my entire life. I'm pretty sure I can make most stuff work, but I'm not everyone. I have to look at it from the perspective of like a guy who works a normal 9-to-5 job, and this is like basically a week's worth of pay for him.
Yeah.
Right.
So I need to make sure that like what I'm communicating is like not just like what I think about it, but what, like what's the value proposition. And at the end of the day, like I'm a very simple person when it comes to my carry guns. And if it's going to be a carry gun, I'm going to buy something and just not touch it, like we talked about on my podcast last time. So that's what I've been working on. I've got a bunch of fancy parts on it. I like it so far. I just wish it worked better.
Well, I alluded to this earlier, but so I'm looking at it just to make sure before I say this, and I'm double checking. They did have an airsoft version of this far before they had mentioned the real one, and I'm looking at it. It is this. So this must have been in the air for a long time. That's actually kind of cool to actually finally see it come out, because I always thought that was really funny. I would see it pop up on Evite, because I was big into airsoft before I ever could have guns, and I always saw that pop up, and I'm like, they don't make a gun. What the hell is that? So that was always kind of funny, but
it's kind of a interesting. Like, I mean, they've built I like Strike as a company, just like for the simple fact that they keep coming out with stuff. Like they're not stopping.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. It's one of those things where like the company itself is great. I just personally like a lot of their stuff. It just doesn't ever pop up on my radar because I wouldn't use it. Like I did mess around with like some of their 1022 stuff. I really like that stuff.
Yeah. Their ambi, the right and side folding stock, I thought was kind of cool. Yeah. But that's I guess how I would describe them. It's really cool, but it's like, who's that for? So I think
people who like to tinker with their guns.
Yeah. But I guess that's one of the biggest things that I've had a problem in terms of trying to relate to people is sometimes I have a hard time separating. Like, I look at guns every day, all day long, and then I come home and I do it with my own stuff. And so when I'm buying something and it doesn't work, it's like, oh, okay, well then I'll try something else. But that's not. Some people just don't do that. Like they don't want to do that. They want to buy a tool and they just want the tool to work. Well, and I can totally respect that.
They can't do that because, like he said, it might be a week's worth of pay. So.
Right. Now, the flip side of that is somebody who also consumes content. It's incumbent upon somebody to understand the context that if you're watching a YouTuber with many, many other videos about other different guns, you can't then complain like, oh, well, I don't like this because you don't think you think the gun's good, even though it doesn't work. It's like, well, you're not looking at through the same lens. You need to also then consume it, understanding what where the person's coming
Oh
from.
yeah, no. At the end of the day,
so frustrating.
At the end of the day, this is part of what I was talking about earlier. At the end of the day, I'm me and you're you. You need to go out and figure this stuff out for yourself. I'm not your mom. I'm not your dad.
Yeah.
I'm not your accountant. I'm not your lawyer. I'm not gonna do any of that stuff for you. Like, I can tell you whatever I want. It's incumbent upon you as the person who is taking the action to fill out that 4473, press that order button, and buy all that ammo and all that stuff. You have to figure that stuff.
That's
for
on
yourself,
you, dude.
Wait, I mean the internet can
best.
lie to me?
Yeah,
no.
it's not even lying. It's just that, like, not everyone, no two people are the same, and no one's ever. So that's why you have to go out and find those, the people who are like-minded, and this is obviously going to create exclusivity and groups and stuff like that of people who are into certain things, and that's how you find. I think that everyone eventually learns that. I just think that a lot of people, like low information purchasers, will look at everything and go, well, any one of you who says this is equally valid as anyone else, and that's where I wish people didn't think that way. This is the thing.
I have a hard time. Kevin sometimes has to sort through my brain a lot of the time when we're coming up with ideas and things to do. I want to talk on a more technical level about things because I'm interested on I'm very invested in this in terms of firearms. But Kevin, a lot of the time, has to remind me, like, hey, you need to make this palatable to people because we have no following. Like, we need to build and establish our brand before
get down the rabbit hole in people.
So it definitely, I've enjoyed this a lot. So I definitely appreciated your experience as well. So I definitely thank you for sharing that.
I too appreciate you, Luke.
What's going to keep you motivated is just do what you're interested in, but don't get caught up in whatever is just new.
Right.
That's what all the TikTok gun tubers or whatever, the social media only gun people are doing. That's what they're basically, they're chasing after the flashy new stuff or what's popular or what's going to get them clicks or likes or whatever. And I think the type of stuff that I've been into, the people I watch are the ones that are like us, who are the ones who've been doing this for their entire life, and who it's more than just like a hobby. It's kind of just like a perpetual interest. It's like, it's the same thing with me in airplanes. And that's something probably a lot of people know about me now that I do this, but I can talk to you for days about jets, planes, aircraft, like things like that. And it's because besides guns, it's like probably the only other thing I'm as interested in besides guns is aircraft. So
nice.
I think that's the dividing point, is like who's telling you what and from what point of view.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely so. I definitely have appreciated that. I'm starting to appreciate that more and more. But the one thing that I haven't been able to commit to quite yet is an official review on a product, because I'm like, I don't know that I can I want to present such an absolute opinion on something. That's why I have this part on my gun. I like it so far. It does this thing well. It does this thing badly. I might keep it. I might not. I complain about basically everything.
You did do a product review about
that wasn't a review. That was just me complaining about a part and not even saying it was bad. Like, I didn't say it. Well, I mean, I said the ACR stock is bad, but that's because it is.
Why don't we say what the product was before we get down this?
The Sure Shot Industries, aka ACR adapter. I was not the short. Okay, let me reiterate this. The short version I didn't like. I didn't think it made a lot of sense, but I also don't like the ACR stock. So, just saying.
What's he buys an airsoft stock and try it.
Yeah, I don't think
and
a lot of people
they
like that
openly
stock.
complains about it the whole time.
I was very open and honest about my opinion. Okay,
this is an airsoft stock, and
oh my god. That's not what I said. I said the foot. Okay, you know what? I'm not doing this with you. We'll have a short barrel where I just bitch and moan about EBRs and ACR stocks. How about that?
I thought you liked the EBR.
Fuck you. You monster. All right. Well, Luke, plug your shit. Tell us where to find you, even though people are probably here because of you.
Plug your shit? What is
Yeah.
this? Sometimes
Tell me where to find you. Track you down.
Jesus.
Let's see. The easiest way to find me is probably on Instagram, even though I don't answer anyone's messages on there anymore because Instagram broke for me probably a couple weeks back, and I can't be bothered to check it. Social media is slowly destroying everyone's lives. So
Totally fair.
You can find me on Instagram.
One click at a time.
Ballistic Aviation. It's all one word, and it's spelled how it sounds. If you know.
And
how to
if they
spell.
were listening at all, they probably might know your publications, but maybe hit them with it again.
Yeah. So for just my stuff, that's Instagram, Ballistic Aviation. YouTube is the same thing. But if you want to check out my work, you can go look at TFB TV, TFB TV Showtime, thefirearmblog.com, and now thetruthaboutguns.com too. So,
Nice.
there's a couple other places I write for, but if you just Google my name, you'll probably find my stuff.
Business card is probably a couple pages long, but
yeah,
Luke,
it's funny. As long as I've been doing this, I have never had a business card, and I
okay.
feel like
That's
I
awesome.
can't, because the second I get one, I'll get fired. From TFB. Like James will fire me.
It's like that one thing where it's like you don't unpack your office because you're afraid of getting fired.
Yeah, that's perpetually is exactly what I'm not doing. So I'm not unpacking my office. So.
Well, Luke,
Yes.
thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad we were able to be able to do this, and honestly, we'd love to have you. Yeah, we definitely want to have you again. So, Kevin, you have anything else?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay, then I'm gonna do our outro. Except last time I forgot to do our outro, so let's see if it actually works. So thank you for tuning in, and hopefully
Here comes the outro.
Yeah, you'll hear us next time. Bye.
Here it goes.
See you.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Very cool. You should like and subscribe
On Facebook and Instagram.
and Twitter and Spotify. You should listen there too. If you
Aren't they
heard this on
listening to
Spotify.
this on Spotify right now?
Well, they could be, but there's also YouTube podcasts. So all of the places.
We always forget where we post this stuff.
We don't know where this is. Thank you for listening wherever you're listening to, but you should also like the other places that we are. And
Who
then
are we and what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know how we got here. So thank you for letting us talk directly into your ear holes.
Right to the brain.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Adios.